Hey everyone, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech and talk about niche products. Today I am talking about power supply upgrades specific to Burson Audio amps. Now Burson Audio is an Australian audio manufacturer. They have a lot of different gear from clocks to amps, and this review, or this amp I reviewed in the past, this is the Burson Audio Funk, which also has a Class A speaker amp. So I'll probably rehash a couple things I liked about this during this review to kind of explain this better. But they have less expensive and more expensive gear, getting into the thousands depending on what you buy. So the idea of this whole product is to improve power delivery for their products. Now, if the only one that the superchargers do not work on, this is the Supercharger 3 amp. They also have a 5 amp version. The Supercharger does not work on the Timekeeper 3RI. There's no benefit to it or just no compatibility, but pretty much everything else you can upgrade to the Supercharger. Now, they both operate at 24 volts. The 5 amp version is more expensive and has more current. As of October of 2022, that retails for about $345, and then this one is $284. So you could save some money by only buying what you need, but if you bought the 5 amp version, it'll work on all your Burson gear if you plan on upgrading down the road. Now, admittedly, if you get Burson audio gear that ranges from $3,000 to $4,000, a $300 power supply upgrade doesn't seem like as big of a deal. Now, when you look at a sub $600 amp, however, the Funk, which I think goes from between $500 to $550 to $600 US right now, depending on what store you buy it at, getting a power supply that's $300, so about half the price, becomes a tougher pill to swallow, admittedly. Also, I think that, and I'm just being realistic because I haven't heard their more expensive stuff, how much can I possibly expect for a change on a less expensive piece of gear? Does a power supply really transform a $600 amp? So I don't want to get into the snake oil path. And this review took a lot longer than expected because I don't want to stake my reputation on saying, yeah, this is a game changer, this will change everything, totally different amp. So when I started hearing it and I was like, this actually does sound better, is this placebo? So I actually had my wife help me by constantly switching them out, but in a random order and not telling me which power supply she was using. Listened to songs for a while, and I was able to pick up the difference every single time. The only time, admittedly, it was harder, and this plays into the whole, and this is the reason why I made this review the way I'm doing it. So it depends on your gear as well. So like the Meze 99 Classic is a very warm sounding headphone. It doesn't scale well with really expensive gear. You can get a really enjoyable listening experience on something cheap. So something like this won't really benefit you on that $300 headphone. Now conversely, if you step up into something like an HE1000 SE, which is over $3,000, now you start opening up the door for scalability and improvements. So the Funk makes a more noticeable improvement over a built-in headphone jack on a laptop or inexpensive amp DAC setup. So I want to set that expectation first because I'm not here to say this is going to change everything you listen to. However, when you do hear it on something that scales, it's pretty shocking. I could not believe, and here's the thing, I don't know if that's because this power supply, the default one that it comes with, is holding this back. This is a pretty normal, inexpensive power supply. It's just a little basic 24 volt switching power supply. So when you step up in a supercharger, it's basically doubling the switch or the power cycle time or the charging cycles. So by operating at a much higher frequency, you're eliminating more DC power noise. So power supplies I've always known have a big impact on sound quality. PS Audio is a high-end audio company, and they were oversizing their power supplies because they couldn't believe the difference they were getting in performance on their amps. And they've taken that philosophy since the 90s and forward. So I'm not plugging a competitor, but I'm just trying to explain that there is truth and merit to having good power. Now, the other thing I want to point out is this is a new house, new studio, and I have dedicated power outlets for my office, so I don't share any power with the rest of the house. That outlet behind me is a dedicated 20. I have dedicated 20s behind, so nothing touches that outlet. Then I have these $700 Panamax power conditioners, which I know is overkill in a lot. I really just wanted a rack mount power supply or power system so I can hide my plugs. But I'm operating with very clean power to begin with. So my differences should be fairly minimal because my power is so clean. However, I was still able to hear the difference. So I think your mileage may vary because it depends on how noisy your power is in the first place, the quality of your power, and it also depends on your output gear and which product you have. So the fact that I was able to hear a difference on arguably one of their least expensive products they make on one of the cleanest power sources that you can connect to, and I could still tell a difference, that's a pretty remarkable thing. Now, would I say buy the $600 amp and then nearly a $300 power supply to complement that? I don't know how well this would stack up to a $900 amp when you look at everything all in, but there are other benefits to this. It's not like this is a $600 headphone amp. This also has a Class A speaker output. So this is what the reason why I'm leading to this is because I have those Bowers & Wilkins S606 S2s behind me, the bookshelf speakers, and I've always had my $3,000 PS Audio amp hooked up to it, and it sounds good. They get crazy loud. This obviously does not get as loud, but this Class A amp, the musicality and dynamics and the way the Class A amps expand the imaging, I mentioned that in my review before, it blew me away. So if I had to make an analogy on music production to like a real world scenario, is if you ask two different people to pick up a 40-pound box and a stronger person picks that up effortlessly and a smaller, weaker person can still pick that up, but they might struggle a little bit. They're exerting themselves a little bit more. And a better power supply, power output is effectively like that bigger, stronger person. You're still lifting the same note. You're still producing the same result, but you seem to have a little bit more control, a little bit more overhead available. And that was the best way I can describe it. It just seems like this makes this produce music a little bit more effortlessly and cleanly. And that was hard for me to say because I don't want to shill a product that I don't honestly think will make a big difference. I'm really grateful that Burson Audio sent this to me for review, and they were really patient. I've had this for a while. Part of it is because I was like, man, if this is making a difference, I really want to make sure that I'm not lying to my viewers and saying it is. I had to get a lot of use to feel confident in saying it was a noticeable improvement because I had a hard time accepting that. So I hope that provides you with some honest feedback. I don't know how other people have felt about this, but it improved my setup and I really enjoyed it. And listening to music on those speakers with this and the supercharger sounded so good. It was a noticeable difference on the speaker output side, not even just higher end headphones. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Definitely take a look at their products online and consider factoring this into your budget because it's kind of like releasing the true potential of whatever product you buy from them. So thank you as always for checking out the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that being said, I'll see you next time.